Good morning. This is Pastor Aimee, and I'm so honored to come to you this morning. If I can just do anything for you this morning, I would like to encourage you not to give up. Pastor preached to us that this would be the year that we reign and rule, and I just want you to stay encouraged and keep believing that God is about to bring you into a different season, that old season of you being at the bottom of a barrel is about to come to a close. And God is about to bring you into a season of rest. He's about to bring you into a season where you rule and you reign and you experience victory. And I don't want you to give up right before that breakthrough. I want you to keep pressing in, keep believing, keep trusting that God is faithful to his promises. And so this morning I want us to look at 2 Samuel chapter 5 because I want us to see some words of wisdom from David on how to break through, how to press in, and then how to stay at the top. So let's look at 2 Samuel chapter 5 verses 1 through 5. David had ended his season of being tested. He ended his season of King Saul chasing after him and trying to destroy him. He was anointed by Samuel to be the next king of Israel, but that did not happen right away. He had to go through his season of testing, and he went through that season of testing, and he began to conquer, and he began to rule, and he started to rule over one tribe of Israel, the tribe of Judah, but that was not over the whole kingdom. And then once Saul had disobeyed God and messed things up and God was finished with him, David began to conquer and he began to rule over the entire 12 tribes of Israel. And it's at this point in his life in 2 Samuel chapter 5, verses 1 through 5, that the elders recognized that it was time for David to rule over all the 12 tribes of Israel. And they came to David to anoint him to rule over the entire kingdom. Verses 6 through 8 tells us that David needed a strategic place to rule from. So he fought against the Jebusites and he took over the city of Jerusalem. And verse 9, once he took over Jerusalem, he started to build his kingdom. Then he went on, he didn't stop, and he grew great. And the Lord God of hosts was with David. And the king Hiram of Tyre sent messages to David and cedar trees and carpenters and masons, and they built David a house. So his influence began to increase. And David perceived, he knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Lord had finally established him as king over Israel, that prophecy that he had waited so long to be fulfilled was finally coming to pass, and that God had exalted his kingdom for his people Israel's sake. Now, when David was beginning to enter into his breakthrough season, verse 17 tells us that the Philistines heard that the elders had anointed David king over Israel, and all the Philistines came up to seek David, and David heard of it and went down to the hold. David was entering the height of his reign. He had been freshly anointed into a new level. He was growing his kingdom and expanding his influence. The time for the words that the prophet Samuel had spoken over him years before was finally coming to pass, and God's stamp of approval was certainly on him because God was with him. Now, you would think that the Philistines would have realized that after all these years they had been coming against David, that they were never able to defeat him. You would think that the enemy would say, we couldn't defeat him when he was a boy standing before our giant champion Goliath. We couldn't defeat him when he was on the run from King Saul, unable to go to the comforts of his father's home and having to live like a vagabond staying in the caves of Adullam. We couldn't defeat him when he came against 200 of our men and slaughtered them and brought their foreskins to Saul. We could not defeat him when he lived among us and deceived us, making us believe that his people hated him, and now David would be loyal to our Philistine king. You would think that the enemy would have realized if we couldn't defeat David when he was on the bottom of the barrel, why on earth would we even consider that we could conquer David when he's beginning to rule and to reign? David's enemies were not going to stop. They were determined to fight him every step of the way. Just because God is starting to bring you into a new season does not mean that the devil is going to play dead and roll over. You have got to stay on the top. You have got to be on the top of your game. You've got to recognize that I need God every step of the way. So in verse 17, David heard of it and he went down to the hold. He went down to the stronghold. He got in the presence of God. Psalms 91 verse 1 through 3 says, he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Mighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in him will I trust. Surely he will deliver me from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. David knew he had to continue trusting God. In verse 18, the Philistines came and they spread themselves in the valley. That enemy was persistent. He was not stopping just because David was starting to experience victory. Verse 19 says, David then inquired of the Lord. He got on his face before God and he said, shall I go up to the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hand? David was smart. He knew he had to continue to seek God. He didn't trust in his own abilities. He did not trust in his past victories. He understood that it was God who kept him when everything was against him, and that it would be God who keeps him when he made it to the other side. David said, I'm going to keep doing what I've always done. I'm going to keep seeking him. I'm going to keep trusting him because I know without God, I am nothing, and I need him to keep giving me the victory. So he prayed to God, and the Lord said unto David, go up, for I will doubtless deliver the Philistines in your hand. Nothing is going to be able to stand in your way when God is ready to give you your breakthrough and bring you into your new season. Verse 20 says, and David came to Baal Perazim, and David smote the enemy there and said, the Lord has broken forth upon my enemies before me as a breach of waters, and therefore he called the name of that place Baal Perazim. That reminds me of Isaiah 59:19. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. Never quit depending on God. The same way you depended on him when you were at the bottom is the same way you have to depend on him to keep you on the top. Some of you are about to step into a season of breakthrough. If the devil couldn't stop you before the breakthrough, he's going to try to stop you after you get that breakthrough. The devil is never going to stop coming against you, but you can always get the victory if you keep trusting in him. Keep trusting in God to give you the victory. Keep seeking him. Keep believing in him. Don't ever stop. Don't think you've ever arrived. Keep seeking his face. Keep trusting him. Keep reading his word. Look to him every single day for instructions. His mercies are new every single morning. And if you apply that principle, if you realize that what got me here is what's going to keep me here, if it was prayer and fasting and seeking and studying his word and not giving up and pressing in, that it's those same principles that is going to keep me when I make it to the other side. God, we thank you for this word this morning. We thank you that you are about to bring us into our new season. And we thank you for the words of wisdom that David has given us, his example that he put before us, that we need to continue to seek you no matter what stage of life we're in, no matter what season we are in. We can never make it a single day without you. If this message has been a blessing to you and you want to help us continue preaching the gospel, you can give securely on our website at seanpinder.net/give, or you can visit paypal.me/Sean Pinder Ministries. If you'd like to send your donations in by mail, make the checks payable to Sean Pinder Ministries and send the donations to P.O. Box 117-442, Carrollton, Texas 75011. Never forget that Pastor Sean and I, we love you, and you are about to rule and reign in life, and the same God who kept you all this time while you were at the bottom is the same God who will keep you on the top of your mountain. God bless.